Neo-Saigon, 2145. The city sprawled before Dr. Min An like a luminous circuit board, neon lights punctuating the darkness as skyscrapers reached toward the stars. From his laboratory on the 87th floor of the Biotech Innovation Tower, the city's pulse seemed distant, a rhythm he'd grown accustomed to ignoring during late nights of research. Tonight was no different as he hunched over his workstation, eyes fixed on the holographic projection of cellular regeneration models. "Final optimization complete," announced the lab's AI assistant. "Longevity Protocol version 8.7 is ready for human trial approval," and exhaled slowly, removing his augmented reality glasses. 7 years of research had culminated in this moment. The cellular regeneration therapy he'd developed promised not just to slow aging, but potentially reverse it, resetting the biological clock without the catastrophic side effects of previous attempts. Unlike earlier failed treatments that had caused accelerated cancer growth or cognitive degradation, his approach utilized quantum cellular programming to target the fundamental mechanics of aging. "Display confirmation metrics," he requested, voice steady despite the exhaustion. The holographic display shifted, presenting a cascade of successful simulations across various demographic profiles. Animal trials had shown unprecedented success, lab mice living 3 times their natural lifespan with enhanced cognitive function, primates showing rejuvenation of organs and neural pathways. His communication panel pulsed with an incoming call. The face of Fook, his data engineer and oldest friend, materialized in the air before him. "You're still in the lab," Fook observed, his expression a mixture of concern and excitement. "The board meeting is tomorrow morning. Have you prepared your presentation?" And gestured at the simulation results. "Just finalizing the data. We're ready." "Fuck. The human trial proposal should pass without opposition." Fook's expression darkened slightly. "Don't be too confident. General Director Tran has been meeting with military representatives. There are whispers about potential applications beyond longevity. So, this is a medical breakthrough, not a military one." Annie replied firmly. "The ethics committee would never." "Ethics committees can be persuaded when funding is involved." Fook interrupted. "Just be prepared for resistance. Or worse, the wrong kind of support." After Fook disconnected, Anne leaned back in his chair, gazing out at the city. Neo-Saigon had been built upon the ruins of the old metropolis after rising sea levels had claimed much of the original city. It stood as a testament to humanity's resilience and technological advancement, but also to the ethical compromises that often accompanied progress. Tomorrow would determine whether his life's work would proceed as he envisioned or be diverted toward purposes he couldn't control. The board meeting proceeded exactly as Fook had warned. While the scientific committee members expressed appropriate caution, they were clearly impressed by the data. It was Director Tran, flanked by 2 representatives from the International Security Coalition, who raised unexpected questions. "Dr. An," Tran began, his voice carrying the artificial smoothness of someone who had undergone multiple vocal rejuvenations. "Your proposal is certainly impressive, but the committee has concerns about the selection criteria for volunteers. We believe priority should be given to candidates with specific physiological profiles, and recognize the euphemism immediately. By specific profiles, you mean military personnel?" The woman beside Tran, introduced only as Representative Nguyen, smiled thinly. "Enhanced longevity would provide significant advantages to those who serve the greater good. Wouldn't you agree? The coalition would be willing to triple your funding. This technology was developed for universal application." And argued, "The selection criteria in my proposal ensures diversity of age, genetic background, and medical history to establish safety across the general population." The debate continued for nearly an hour before a compromise was reached. N could select his volunteer group according to his original criteria, but 5 positions would be reserved for candidates chosen by the coalition. It wasn't ideal, but it allowed the trials to proceed. As the meeting concluded, Lan, the project's lead psychologist, caught up with Anne in the corridor. "That went better than expected," she said, falling into step beside him. "At least we maintained some control." "For now," Anne replied, "but I don't trust their intentions. We need to be vigilant about monitoring all participants equally. No special treatment for the coalition candidates." Lan nodded, her expression serious. "I've already updated the psychological evaluation protocols. If anyone experiences unusual effects, we'll know immediately." Neither of them could have predicted just how unusual those effects would be. The first volunteer was a 38-year-old university professor named Tuan, with no remarkable medical history beyond a family predisposition to cardiovascular disease. His initial treatment session proceeded without incident, a 3-hour process involving quantum cellular reprogramming followed by a targeted gene therapy to activate longevity pathways. It was during the post-treatment monitoring period that something unprecedented occurred. Anne was reviewing Tuan's vital signs when the man suddenly gasped, his body going rigid. The monitoring equipment registered a massive spike in neural activity. "What's happening?" Tuan's voice was strained. "I'm seeing something. Images, not memories, not mine, at least." And exchanged alarmed glances with Lan, who immediately activated the neural recording system. "Can you describe what you're seeing?" she asked calmly, though her fingers trembled slightly as she adjusted the equipment. "A city, but nothing like ours. The buildings are crystalline, spiraling upward. The sky is wrong, too purple. There are 3 moons." Tuan's breathing accelerated. "People, but not people. Taller, thinner, 6-fingered hands." For 43 seconds, Tuan continued describing an alien civilization with remarkable detail, architectural structures, social customs, even fragments of a language with complex tonal variations. Then, as suddenly as it began, the episode ended. Tuan blinked, disoriented but calm. "That was vivid," he murmured, "like remembering something I've always known but never experienced." The incident should have raised immediate red flags, but initial neural scans showed no damage or abnormalities. Tuan reported feeling better than he had in years, with baseline tests confirming improved cellular regeneration and cognitive function, against Lan's recommendation. Anne decided to proceed with the next volunteers, adding enhanced neural monitoring to the protocol. Within 2 weeks, all 20 volunteers had undergone initial treatment. 15 experienced similar memory episodes of varying intensity. The contents varied wildly. Some described technological civilizations on distant worlds. Others recalled primitive existence on Earth-like planets, and 3 reported memories of existence as non-corporeal entities in environments that defied physical description. The common thread was that none of these memories belonged to their current lives or any recognizable human history. "They're not hallucinations," Lan insisted during an emergency meeting with Anne and Puck. "The neural patterns are consistent with genuine memory retrieval, not fabrication. And there are correlations between the experiences, recurring symbols, overlapping descriptions of certain technologies or evolutionary patterns." Puck, who had been analyzing the recorded descriptions, projected a 3-dimensional map of star systems. 7 of the volunteers independently described celestial arrangements that match actual star systems. 3 of these systems were only recently discovered and aren't public knowledge. Aina stared at the projection, a chill running through him despite the lab's regulated temperature. You're suggesting these are actual memories, but that's impossible. Unless they're not from this life, Lon said quietly. What if the therapy isn't just regenerating cells, but somehow accessing genetic memory on a deeper level than we thought possible? What if our DNA carries imprints from elsewhere? Gee, that's not science, Anne protested, though his conviction wavered. That's mysticism. Is it? Fuck challenged. We know that trauma can create epigenetic changes that pass through generations. What if consciousness itself leaves imprints on our genetic code? What if those imprints could somehow come from beyond Earth? Before Anne could respond, his communication panel pulsed with an urgent message from the monitoring center. Tuan was experiencing another episode, more intense than the first. They arrived to find him trembling violently, eyes unfocused, speaking in a language none of them recognized. The neural activity monitor displayed patterns unlike anything they'd seen before. Energy signatures pulsing in configurations that shouldn't have been possible in a human brain. It's not just one memory now. Tuan gasped in Vietnamese when he briefly surfaced to consciousness. It's thousands, millions, all connected, all warning of something. Warning of what? Anne asked, administering a stabilizing agent. Tuan's eyes focused momentarily, locking with An's. The convergence. It's happened before. The collapse of reality barriers. We tried to prevent it. Then he lost consciousness. The coalition representatives arrived within hours, despite Anne's attempts to manage the situation quietly. Representative Nguyen reviewed the monitoring data with unsettling enthusiasm, while Tuan remained in an induced coma to prevent further neural strain. This is remarkable, she said, not bothering to hide her excitement. The implications for intelligence gathering alone are revolutionary. If we could access ancestral memories, or even memories from alternative sources. This is a dangerous side effect, not a feature. Anne argued, we need to modify the treatment to eliminate these episodes before proceeding. Director Tran, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. On the contrary, Dr. Anne, the coalition believes this aspect of your discovery may be more valuable than the longevity effects. We're authorizing expanded trials with a focus on memory retrieval capabilities. I won't be part of weaponizing this technology, Anne said firmly. Your participation is not optional, Nguyen replied, her smile vanishing. National security protocols allow us to assume control of any research with significant defense implications. Your project now falls under that category. As they left, Anne turned to Phuc and Lan with grim determination. We need to understand what's happening before they turn our volunteers into lab rats. Or worse, weapons. Fuck. I need you to develop a way to stabilize and interpret these memory episodes. Lan, work with the volunteers who haven't experienced severe reactions. See if you can identify why some are more susceptible than others. And you? Lan asked. Anne looked through the observation window at Tuan's unconscious form. I'm going to undergo the treatment myself. If I'm going to fight for control of this research, I need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Despite vehement objections from both colleagues, Anne proceeded with his plan. The self-administered treatment process was identical to that given to the volunteers. For 24 hours, he experienced only the expected effects, mild discomfort followed by a noticeable increase in energy and mental clarity. Then the memories began. Unlike the chaotic episodes experienced by Tuan and others, An's memories emerged gradually, almost methodically. He saw through eyes not his own, living brief fragments of countless lives across what seemed to be vast stretches of space and time. Some were recognizably humanoid, others utterly alien in form and thought. With Lan monitoring his neural activity and Fook recording his descriptions, and navigated these memories with scientific precision, cataloging details and connections. Patterns emerged. Certain worlds appeared repeatedly across different epochs. Specific technologies recurred with slight variations, and a mysterious symbol resembling an intricate double helix appeared in civilizations separated by what must have been millions of years. Most significantly, each memory thread eventually led to the same haunting image, a vast, incomprehensible structure floating in space, composed of what appeared to be interlocking rings of dark energy. In each memory, civilizations either sought this structure or fled from it. The convergence point. And whispered during one session, the term arising spontaneously from somewhere deep within his consciousness, the place where realities meet. By the end of the week, N had experienced over 300 distinct memory episodes without the severe neural distress shown by Tuan and several others. Working through exhaustion, Fook developed an algorithm to translate the neural patterns into more comprehensible visual data, creating a four-dimensional map of the memories across space and time. "There's a pattern here," Fook explained, gesturing at the holographic display where countless points of light represented individual memories. "They're not random. They're converging towards something, both spatially and temporally." "The convergence point," and murmured, studying the projection. "But what is it?" "I think it's more than a place," Lan suggested. "Based on the psychological patterns in these memories, it represents a moment, an event that crosses dimensional boundaries." Their research accelerated over the following days, even as pressure from the coalition intensified. 5 new volunteers, all military personnel, were added to the trial group, with Representative Nguyen personally overseeing their treatment and monitoring. Tuan remained in a medically induced coma, his neural activity too unstable to risk consciousness. The breakthrough came unexpectedly through one of the original volunteers, a 72-year-old retired physicist named Mai, who had experienced only mild memory episodes until now. During her weekly monitoring session, she suddenly began describing mathematical equations with perfect clarity, formulas that related to quantum entanglement across dimensional barriers. "It's a communication method," she explained in a voice that sounded subtly altered. "A way to send warnings across incarnations, across reality streams. The memories aren't random, they're messages, deliberately encoded into the fundamental structure of matter itself." Anne, who had been observing the session, felt a chill of recognition. "Messages from whom?" Mai's eyes seemed to focus on something beyond the room. "From us. From all of us who have faced the convergence before. It's a cycle. Reality barriers thin. Dimensions bleed into one another. And consciousness fragments across multiple planes of existence. When it happens, most life is lost in the chaos. And the longevity treatment somehow accesses these messages?" Lan asked skeptically. "The treatment manipulates quantum cellular structures," Mai replied. "It creates pathways that allow consciousness to access informational imprints stored in the subatomic fabric of reality. These imprints are what you perceive as memories, but they're actually warnings, left by countless civilizations across countless cycles of existence." Anne might have dismissed this as delusion, if not for the fact that Mai was suddenly speaking with expertise in theoretical physics far beyond her educational background, and the equations she produced aligned perfectly with the patterns Fuchs had identified in the memory mapping. When Representative Nguyen learned of this development, her approach shifted dramatically. No longer interested in merely observing, she demanded immediate application of an enhanced version of the treatment to all coalition subjects. If these memories contain technological information from advanced civilizations, we need to extract and utilize it immediately. She insisted. National security concerns take precedence over your scientific caution. Dr. Ann, these aren't instruction manuals, and argued. They're warnings about a cosmic event we barely understand. Forcing more intense memory retrieval could cause permanent neural damage, or worse. That's a risk we're authorized to take, she replied coldly. That night, Anne, Fook, and Lan met secretly in An's apartment, away from the laboratory's surveillance systems. They're going to weaponize this no matter what we do, Fook said grimly. The question is whether we let them do it blindly and destructively, or whether we guide the process towards something less catastrophic. Lan shook her head. If Mai is right, if these memories are actually warnings about some cyclical cosmic event, then weaponizing this knowledge could accelerate whatever catastrophe previous civilizations were trying to prevent. Anne had been silent, staring at the city lights through his window. Finally, he turned to his colleagues. There's another possibility. What if the purpose of these warnings isn't just to alert us to the danger, but to help us survive it? What if, across countless cycles of existence, consciousness has been trying to preserve itself by passing knowledge forward? You think we should complete the process? Lan realized. Try to retrieve the complete message. Yes, but not through the Coalition's brute force approach. N replied. We need to create a more refined version of the treatment, one that allows for complete memory integration without neural damage. And we need to do it before Nguyen implements her version. That could take months, Fook protested. Not if we use what we've already learned from the volunteers' experiences. And countered, especially mine and Mai's. There's a pattern to how the memories emerge, a natural progression. The Coalition wants to force the process, but I believe there's a way to work with it instead. For the next 72 hours, they worked in secret, using Anne's private laboratory equipment to develop what they called the Harmonic Integration Protocol, a modified version of the original treatment designed to facilitate gradual, stable access to the embedded memory patterns. The plan was simple but dangerous. Anne would undergo the enhanced treatment first, attempting to access the complete message pattern. If successful, they would have the evidence needed to convince the ethics committee to override the Coalition's authority. If not, the consequences could be fatal. What they didn't anticipate was betrayal from within. One of An's junior researchers, seeking career advancement, alerted Director Tran to their unauthorized experiments. As Anne prepared for the treatment, security forces stormed the private laboratory. In the chaos that followed, Lan managed to initiate the treatment sequence before being restrained. Anne felt the familiar cellular vibration begin, but this time accompanied by an intense pressure behind his eyes. As the security forces approached to disconnect him from the equipment, the world around him shattered into fragments of light and darkness. He was everywhere and nowhere, experiencing countless lives simultaneously. He was a crystalline entity floating in the rings of a gas giant, a multi-limbed creature building mathematical temples under alien seas, a being of pure energy navigating the space between galaxies. Through all these perspectives, he moved toward the same destination, the convergence point. As his consciousness approached this cosmic nexus, the disparate memories began to align into a coherent narrative. The convergence wasn't merely an event, but a place where multiple reality streams intersected, a cosmic junction point where dimensional barriers naturally thinned every few billion years. Previous civilizations had discovered that consciousness could traverse these barriers, preserving itself when physical existence became impossible in one reality. But there was more. a warning that artificial acceleration of this process could rupture the delicate balance of the multiverse, causing a cascading collapse of reality itself. The longevity treatment, by manipulating quantum cellular structures, had inadvertently begun such an acceleration, with horrifying clarity, and understood that the Coalition's plans would not merely weaponize these memories, but potentially trigger the very catastrophe the warning sought to prevent. He fought to maintain his sense of self within the overwhelming flood of consciousness, focusing on returning to his physical body. As he struggled, he sensed other presences, Tuan, Mai, and other volunteers whose minds had also accessed the memory stream. Together, they formed a momentary network of shared consciousness, supporting one another against the pull of complete dissolution, and awoke to chaos. The laboratory was in lockdown, emergency systems blaring. Lan knelt beside him, her face streaked with tears of relief. "You were clinically dead for 6 minutes," she explained, helping him sit up. Then every piece of quantum-enabled technology in the building activated simultaneously. The security systems went haywire, all the doors unlocked, then sealed again, trapping the Coalition forces in the lower levels. "Fuck?" An asked, his voice hoarse. "Here," Fuck called from across the room, where he was rapidly transferring data from the laboratory systems to a secure portable drive. "Whatever happened while you were away, it created a quantum encryption matrix I've never seen before. The Coalition won't be able to access any of our research without the key, which seems to be somehow linked to your neural patterns," and tried to stand but stumbled, his body still adjusting to whatever transformation had occurred. "We need to reach the other volunteers. They're part of this now, part of the network. I saw them in the convergence. Tuan regained consciousness during your treatment." Lan informed him. "So did 3 others who were in neural distress. They're stable now, all reporting the same thing, a sense of connection to a larger consciousness network." Alarms suddenly silenced, plunging the laboratory into eerie quiet. The communication panel activated automatically, displaying Director Tran's face. His typical composure had vanished, replaced by cold fury. "Whatever you've done, Dr. An, you've committed treason against the global coalition. Military forces have been authorized to secure the facility and all research subjects. Surrender immediately, or face maximum consequences." And looked to his colleagues, then back at the screen. "What we've discovered isn't a weapon, Director. It's a warning, and potentially a doorway. The convergence is real, and it's approaching faster than anyone realized. Weaponizing this knowledge won't protect humanity. It will accelerate our destruction. Spare me your philosophical concerns." Tran snapped. "You have 10 minutes before we breach the laboratory level, after the connection terminated," and turned to Fook and Lan. "We need to evacuate the volunteers and secure the research. The Coalition doesn't understand what they're dealing with." "Where can we go?" Lan asked. "They'll lock down the entire city." An closed his eyes briefly, accessing the strange new awareness that hummed beneath his ordinary thoughts. "There's a place, coordinates embedded in the shared memories, a location where the dimensional barriers are already naturally thin. If we can reach it with the proper equipment, we might be able to establish a stable connection to the consciousness network across realities." "You're talking about leaving Earth," Fook realized. "I'm talking about finding answers." And corrected, "About understanding what these memories have been trying to tell us across countless cycles of existence." The next hour passed in a blur of activity, using the strange new influence they had over the building's quantum-enabled systems. They managed to evacuate all 20 volunteers before the Coalition forces breached the laboratory level. Fuck secured their research data while Lon prepared the volunteers, many of whom were still disoriented from their experiences. They escaped through maintenance tunnels that connected to Neo-Saigon's underground transit system, emerging in the crowded central district where they could temporarily disappear among the masses. N had already transmitted key research findings to trusted colleagues across global research networks, ensuring that even if they were captured, the knowledge wouldn't be lost or monopolized. As dawn broke over the city, they boarded a hypersonic transport bound for the Autonomous Pacific Research Zone, one of the few regions not directly under Coalition control. From there, they would seek passage to the coordinates revealed in the shared memories, a remote region in the Atacama Desert where ancient petroglyphs matched symbols from the memory patterns, suggesting it had been recognized as a dimensional thin spot by Earth civilizations thousands of years ago. Standing on the transport's observation deck as Neo-Saigon receded behind them, and felt both uncertainty and purpose, the longevity treatment had unlocked something far beyond extended human lifespan. It had revealed humanity's connection to a cosmic network of consciousness that transcended time, space, and perhaps reality itself. "Do you think we'll find what we're looking for?" Lon asked, joining him at the window. Anne watched the rising sun glint off the distant ocean. "I think we'll find something no one expected. These memories, these lives before Earth, they're not just echoes of the past. They're guideposts to the future. A future where consciousness can survive the convergence," Fook added, approaching with Mai and Tuan, and nodded, feeling the subtle resonance of countless memories beneath his thoughts, lives lived across stars and dimensions, all connected by the fundamental pattern of consciousness itself. "The treatment was meant to extend life," he said quietly. "Instead, it showed us that life, or at least consciousness, may already be eternal. We just needed to remember." As the transport accelerated over the ocean, N felt something he hadn't experienced since beginning his research years ago. Hope, not just for extended human lifespan, but for understanding humanity's place in a cosmos far stranger and more connected than anyone had imagined. Behind them, Coalition forces were undoubtedly mobilizing. Ahead lay uncertainty and danger. But within each of them now existed a fragment of universal memory, a connection to countless lives before Earth and perhaps beyond it. The longevity treatment had failed in its original purpose, but succeeded in a far more profound way. It hadn't just extended life, it had redefined it, revealing existence as something that transcended individual experience or single planets. As Neo-Saigon disappeared beyond the horizon, and realized they weren't just fleeing, they were embarking on humanity's first conscious journey into the multidimensional nature of existence itself. The cells that carried these cosmic memories had always been part of them. The treatment had simply helped them remember what they had always been: consciousness traveling across the vast expanse of reality, carrying warnings and wisdom from lives before Earth. Whatever awaited them at the ancient site in the Atacama, and knew with certainty that it would not be an ending, but a beginning. The beginning of humanity's conscious participation in the cosmic cycle of existence that had been unfolding since before Earth itself had formed from stellar dust. The journey ahead would be dangerous, but for the first time, they would face it with the accumulated wisdom of countless civilizations who had traversed these paths before, wisdom now encoded in their very cells. Memories of lives before Earth, guiding them toward whatever lay beyond the convergence.